to those of you who are here live in the Zoom room. And welcome to those of you who are joining us live over on the YouTube channel. We are so excited that you are here. We're going to be talking about micro rituals today. And Louise, we want to get started as we always do. Do you want to kick us off a little bit?
We do, absolutely. These little mini sessions for big results is what we're doing today. And before we get started, I do want to acknowledge that I live, work, and play on Treaty 1 territory. I'm in the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene people, and I'm on the national homeland of the Red River Métis in the heart of Turtle Island.
Beautiful. Thank you, Louise. And I'm hosting today from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Kanien'kehá:ka, colonially known as the island of Montreal, a place which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst nations. So we want to welcome you all today. I am Kim, and this is Louise. For those of you who have not met before, we created the Inspire-Eyes Network and Your Kickass Career as a place for people to come together to craft and develop work that works for them, whether that's as an employee, as an entrepreneur, or anything in between. So under the umbrella of Inspire-Eyes, you find the Kickass Career Collective, which includes courses, coaching, mastermind sessions, and much more. And it's also where we post our weekly live stream podcast called Kickass Career Conversations that you can find on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook on Friday afternoons. And you can also catch the replay anywhere you listen to podcasts. So I said that really, really quickly because in the next 22 minutes, because it's 3 after the hour. In the next 22 minutes, because we promise these will be 25 minutes or less, we want to dive into this idea of micro ritual. Why the heck are we even talking about rituals? Well, one thing that I really love about ritual is we tend to blow it out of proportion. So we tend to think that rituals have to be these big things and it includes a lot of stuff. And yet, in reality, rituals are those tiny things that reground us and bring us back to the path we want to be walking on. And so today we thought we would just have a little dialogue about rituals, about micro rituals, about how we use them, and give you some tips and techniques on how you can start using micro rituals to create macro changes in your life and in the work that you do. Does that sound good? Yeah.
It sounds good to me.
Okay.
But I'm really curious because you're talking about rituals
Mhm.
in a way that sounds a little bit like routines to me. Tell me what you think the difference is, or what you believe the difference is between a routine and a ritual.
So I love that. So to me, it's about intention. So routines, habits, right? Because we could also throw habits into that same bucket, are those things that we do all the time. So I may have a morning routine, and it may involve ritual. So one can include the other, or the routine, I guess, could include the ritual. I don't know if it could be the other way around. Because it to me is about this place of intention. It's where we set aside our energy, our thoughts, and we are actually really, really present and intentional about what we're creating. And that's why I say we think it has to be this big thing, because when we think about something being intentional, it's like, oh, shoot, we have to like stop what we're doing and think about it. And that can become a big, hairy deal. I don't know. What do you think the difference is between routine and ritual, if you think there is?
Yeah, I do. And I played with this a little bit because when we were talking about, because we've talked about like micro habits here, right? We've
Mhm.
talked about a lot of little micro things that we do. And the thing that bubbled to the surface for me that I believe was missing in some of that earlier conversation around habits was this idea of intention. And when we are intentional, we are like really being focused on the present, right? We are in the present moment. I think routines can be ritualistic if we are really embodying that and being intentional about what it is. We are paying attention, We're not just like, check, right? Like, I made my bed, check. I brushed my teeth, check. Like, we can actually have a ritual around making our bed or a ritual around brushing our teeth. There is a real difference, because I think when we are intentional, like, the difference comes in like the effect that we feel from a ritual, which I think is very different than the effect we feel from routine.
Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think a lot of times routine is getting shit done. Let's just be clear, right? Like, it's check, check, check. It's a bit of a checkbox life, right? I went to the gym, I showered, I brushed my teeth, I did my yoga, like whatever that is, walked the dog. Those are all routines. How do we fit those into our day? And they can bring in a sense of accomplishment at the end of the day if we're paying attention to them. But I feel like a ritual is more that it's not just checking a box. When we are fully in a ritual and participating in a ritual, when we're done, there is, I think the mental health effects of that is much deeper. It brings something more. It allows us to approach a problem differently, because we've been able to set down kind of that overwhelm, and that, like, it's not so hurried. Like, it's not about checking a box.
Yeah, it's funny. So I do have a yoga practice, and there are many days that that's just my routine. I show up on the mat. I am present in the moment. I have chosen to do yoga that day, but I would not consider it ritual. Then there are nights like last night, I ended my day. It was not a bad day. It was just a very busy day, and my energy was incredibly janky. I went down to kind of engage with my family after my work day, and I was like, whoa, that's not gonna work. Not if I would like to keep them in my family. Just not gonna work. So I took myself back upstairs. I lit a candle. I brought out my bolsters and my pillows and my yoga mat. And I was very intentional about I brought out some essential oils. I was very intentional about creating a space where the end goal was to regulate my nervous system. But I did that through the process of this ritual that I have of exercising, right? I did use some yoga in that process, but it was ritualized, right? It was that process of setting up an intentional space to allow myself to decompress, to come to center. Um, it was longer than what we talk about generally when we talk about micro moments, right? It was 20 minutes. So I wasn't in there for an hour and a half, zenned out, which I do love. In 20 minutes, I was able to create and utilize ritual and something that I have in my routine toolbox as well to be able to create a changed environment for myself. And I think that's when you were talking about the effect and the mental health benefits of ritual. When we step into those spaces, we are transformed, right? So I think that's a second component of why ritual. Like, why are we focused on ritual? So it's intentionality, but it's also transformation. So when we allow ourselves to be in that space where something is going to change for us, on us, in us, that takes us to that next level. And again, it doesn't have to be something, a wedding ceremony is absolutely a ritual, right? It's ritualized. And it doesn't have to be as big as that. It can be
Yeah.
something much smaller. So I'm curious about this idea of like of intentional and transformation. What else comes up for you in terms of why do we do ritual?
Why do we do ritual?
Mhm. Let's think of what are some of the ritualized things that you do?
Yeah, and so I was just thinking that, especially in this space around routine, because I do have rituals that aren't necessarily routine,
Mhm.
right? They are things that I want to bring into my life that feel very grounding when I want to be grounded for a moment, right? That's that mental health aspect. When things are crazy, like you said, right? And swirly, there are rituals that I do that feel very grounding, right? Fire in the fireplace, pull up my chair to that, and go through my oracle deck or go through some quote cards, and take a moment to pull those out and to reflect on those. And then what am I bringing forward? Because I think that's part of it too, right? Is that from a ritual, there's something that we bring from that into that next moment when we've completed our ritual. We're bringing calm, we're bringing peace, we're bringing an intention, but we carry that throughout our day. So I think the why do I do ritual is actually really to kind of like step out of that storm, that swirly bit we can get into, and take something with me next. I've started doing a bit of a ritual in the mornings. And so I've really wanted to change up my morning routine, because it didn't feel like I was actually getting anything from it other than checking a bunch of boxes, right? Like get up, walk the dog, brush my teeth, right? Get dressed, sometimes in that order, sometimes in a different order. And it was really feeling like I never started my day with a clear mind or with a clear intention or with clear goals, even about how to make my day successful. And so, one of the rituals that I started doing is what I'm sitting at the table now to have my breakfast, something I never used to do before because I was always on the go. But I'm sitting at the table, and I have a candle lit while I'm eating my breakfast. And I have a piece of blank notepaper and a pen.
Mhm.
And I start just documenting anything that flies into my head, so that I can actually lay it down for a moment and not carry it into my day. So maybe these are things I have to do in the evening. Maybe these are other chores. Maybe these are things coming up, thoughts about the weekend, the month, the whatever, 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 but it's heavy on me. And so I want to put it down because I want to face and start my day with lightness and energy. And so by that ritual, and I blow out my candle when I'm done, my breakfast and clean up my dishes and away I go. I'm actually not even looking at that paper again.
Mhm.
It's not meant to be a task list or a to-do list. It's just meant for me to put my heavy stuff down so that I can start my day with a little bit more freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. And how long does that process take you?
Well, I'm eating my breakfast, so I don't know. I'm doing something anyways, right? I don't think it takes any more than a couple of extra minutes to my breakfast meal than it would if I was just sitting there shoving oatmeal in my face or on my phone or
Right.
on
Well,
my phone.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's just be real here. It's probably actually saving me time,
Mhm.
um, because I'm not on social, or Pinterest, because Lord knows I
That's
love
your
a good
social.
pin. And I'm actually starting my day with a lot more productivity, to be honest. And so I believe like it's this ritual actually creates time for me or saves me time than costing me time.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things, again, we kind of create this thing in our minds of ritual needs to be something big.
Mhm.
I have a group that I run, my business accelerator, and one of the elements that I have them work on every time is to create an altar. And the pushback that I get initially is, well, I've never created this before. This is a big deal? I'm like, no, we make it a big deal, but find any space that you can clear off, even if it's a shared shelf with something else, just any space that you can clear off and bring those items to it. It can be a picture, it can be flowers, it can be crystals, it can be a drawing, it can be words, whatever you want. Bring those things to that space that you want to focus on, right? That's a ritual, creating a ritual around that space. And so I used to think that I needed to redo my altar all the time. I redo my altar twice a month. Sometimes it's only once a month, but I try and do it at the new moon and the full moon because at those times I want to refocus my energy for the next 2 weeks. So I just use it as like a little time. Sometimes I create this big ritual. Takes me a couple of hours to go through, where meditation and journaling and music and dance. And I go, ooh, it's juicy and I love it. And then there's those times where I'm like, okay, new moon's on a Thursday and it's packed. And I don't know. Okay, well, 15 minutes later, my altar is done. I've refocused, I've created, but I try not to miss that opportunity to refocus myself.
Mhm.
So, right, it's the transformation, but it's also that place that allows us to take a pause, right? We've created some intentionality. We've taken a pause. It's like what we do with celebrations. So on our podcast every week, Louise, you and I step in, we start every week with a celebration. That is a ritual. We don't, podcast would be fine if we didn't do it. And yet we step into that place of celebration because we want to take that pause and we want to set up the tone. So that's one of the things that I love thinking about with ritual as well, is this idea of setting the tone, right? So intention, transformation, um, setting things down. So like allowing ourselves to just kind of pause and reflect, and then setting the tone. Is there anything else that we get from ritual just in these last couple of minutes that we have together?
Well, and I'm thinking like we can get into the science of all of that too, because there is such a mental health benefit to what ritual brings into our lives, right? It is that ability to stay connected and be present.
Mhm.
When we are in overwhelm or having really anxious thoughts, we are not present. And this actually allows us those few minutes or whatever that looks like for you to actually exercise presence, to practice presence. And at first, it feels kind of crunchy and weird. And we know that our thoughts are going a million miles an hour. Um, and I think the more that we do this, and instill rituals into a practice that we come back to over and over again, we're actually building our resilience. We're
Mhm.
actually building our adaptability. And Kim, you and I, we coach leaders, we coach pivoters, careers, entrepreneurs, social impact, but we coach those folks around how we're showing up at work, right? Whatever define work, whatever you do for a paycheck, but how we're showing up. And a huge part of that is how resilient we feel when we are at work, how we can keep separate, right? What goes on at work and what goes on in our lives. We have so much of that smearing all over the place, right? That we bring work home with us, and it just stays with us.
Mhm.
Learning to put those things down at work so that when you're done work, you're done work. When you need to
Mhm.
unplug, you unplug. Those are huge, huge things. And so, what we're talking about here is the beginnings of that, right? We're talking about the seeds. When you start thinking about rituals and you start thinking about implementing that and being more present, that just has ripple effects into especially our mental health and building our resilience.
Yeah. So we gave examples today of how we're both using ritual and how we've experienced ritual and how we make it so that it's something that is not just manageable, but is easily accessible for ourselves. That it's not that checkbox mentality of, oh, yeah, I did a ritual. It's really being very intentional, right? Look, understanding it's intentional, it's transformational. It gives us an opportunity to support our mental health, our well-being,
Mhm.
and that end result being that we become more adaptable, more resilient, more productive, more creative, right? Kinder
Mhm.
human beings, because we've stepped into small bits of ritual throughout our enter the timeline, right? Like, is it throughout your day? Is it throughout your week? But this is our invitation for you to play with, where can you bring in ritual? Where can you allow yourself to set aside, right? Create that intentional space for yourself to ritualize something that is going to bring you the transformation, the grounding, the centeredness that allows you to move forward with more ease.
Absolutely. Whew, I
Woo,
love
there
it.
we go.
Um,
All right.
yes. So Kim, let's
Yep.
let folks know where they can find more of this really, really great, juicy stuff.
Absolutely. So we are, as I mentioned, and I'm just grabbing the link, which is what I'm looking down for. We, as I mentioned, are in the Inspire Eyes network. It is a free network for individuals who want to create and craft work that works for them. And again, that is for individuals who are employees, business owners, pivoters, anything in between, wherever you are. We'd love to have you be part of that conversation. Inside that group, we have recordings and live opportunities and resources. And Louise and I pop in and out. So there's support from us, but then support from others as well. And we do also have these mini classes that we do twice a month. Our next one is going to be on micro moments of joy on March 14th. And that is at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central. Enter your time zone here, wherever you are in the world. We'd love to have you join us live, either in the Zoom room or over on our YouTube channel. I think that's what we have going on. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. Please, please, please check out our podcast, or the YouTube channel. You're gonna be in touch with other things that Kim and I have coming up as well. And get into that network and start discovering, rediscovering, I think is what it is, right? This is about you rediscovering yourself. And that's why we are here, is to be your guides in that. But no, I think this is fantastic. Please join us again, or go back and check out the replay of some of these little mini classes that we have. We promise we're really not asking you to change the world.
No, I am. I'm asking you to change the world,
Oh
but
yeah,
I'm
you are.
asking you to change the world in the way that you are already a change maker, a thought leader, a paradigm shifter, because you already are. And Jade, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. 24 minutes, so we did it in under 25. We are going to say goodbye and look forward to seeing you at the next one.
All
Thank you.
right,
Thank you, everyone.
everyone. Take care. Bye.